guys. How we doing?
Good. How are you?
All right, questions for Coach.
James, is J.B. Nelson's situation a season-ending situation with his status?
Like for 9 years, I'm not going to talk about injuries unless they're season-ending.
James, Coach Yurcich yesterday, he talked about having concern with maybe some of the timing between Drew and some of the receivers. How concerning of an issue is that to you, and how can that be addressed this week?
Yeah, just more reps. I mean, obviously, being able to get Trey back full time would help because he's a guy who's played a lot of football for us. We got some new guys that we're still trying to kind of work some of that out with all the different coverages, with the different techniques. But yeah, we just got to continue to grind on it, continue to get more reps. All right, thanks, guys.
James, with respect to recruiting, how do the next few days kind of shape up for you and the staff, and how much time is spent, on the guys who are already committed that you want to take care of, and how much is spent kind of looking at new prospects?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. I mean, obviously we want to get out and see all of our commitments, and while we're doing that, then we see the guys in the area as well. And then we kind of map out what games we want to get to and what regions. I'll leave tonight as soon as I'm done talking to you guys. Be out tomorrow, all day tomorrow through Saturday night. We'll have a coordinators and a GA and a veterans practice tomorrow, and then the young guys or non-travel guys, they'll have some responsibilities Friday morning, and then the guys will have off for the weekend, but the coaches will be out recruiting.
James, it's been a few weeks since we checked in on Vega Ioane. He's obviously playing a ton of football. Where is he through these 5 games, and what's your confidence level on what he's put out there?
Yeah, he's doing well. He's a guy we had a ton of confidence in, and he continues to grow. He's a smart guy. He's a consistent guy. As you guys know, he's big and strong and powerful, but he's played pretty well, and he's getting better each week. So, think he's going to have a really nice second half of the year, and I think he's got a bright future.
James, you mentioned Trey Wallace. How's he handling not being able to be full go right now, and how are you seeing him progress?
Good. He was really full go last week and got stepped on and tweaked it again. So it's just kind of one of those things sometimes. But he looked good today, so we anticipate having him back. And like I said, he was really going to be back the week before.
James, the way that Drew carries himself and some things he said, it feels like he has a selfless approach to the game. If that's accurate, when you have a quarterback who is selfless, how does that influence the personality of the offense and the individual players?
Well, I will say this. I've been super impressed. I'm going to kind of go in a different direction here a little bit, but I've been super impressed by Jalen Hurts with the Eagles and his approach. And whenever I see anything from him, I kind of always forward that to our quarterbacks, some of the stuff that he says. I mean, obviously, quarterbacks are evaluated by touchdown to interception ratio, completion percentage, third down, red zone are obviously the big stats for those guys. But ultimately, the most important stat for a quarterback is winning. And I think Drew really understands that. He's been really good handing the ball off. We got a great picture up in our facility of after him handing the ball off, and I think Katron's scoring and he's doing the touchdown signal, and the picture's a really cool picture. He just wants the offense to run well, and he wants to grade out well, which is following out his fakes after he hands the ball off, making the throws that he should be, making the adjustments to the protection in the run game, all those types of things. He wants to play well, and I think he understands him playing well and the offense playing well gives us a chance to be 1-0 that week. Obviously, all players at all positions would like to also put up statistics and gaudy numbers. He's done that at times, but I still think there's a lot left, kind of low-hanging fruit for us, specifically in the pass game, but also the run game, to be honest with you. So he's handled it really well. Super mature guy. He was the same way during the recruiting process. He didn't really get caught up in nonsense. Once he decided this is where he wanted to come, there was no drama after that. And as you guys know, he ended up, depending on which service you follow, being the #1 ranked quarterback in the country, and got a bunch of late offers from schools that are close to him. And him and his family never wavered. Just, those guys in my time, whether it's quarterbacks or any other positions, they tend to be very successful. Guys that are focused on the right things, those guys usually have a tendency to be successful in college and then afterwards.
James, is there anything about the self-scout that you guys have gone through this week that maybe surprised you or that you didn't expect that you guys found?
Yeah, there was a bunch of really good information. Not only did we do on our own, just running the numbers, but also across the ball. But obviously, not anything that I would share here that is not available that you guys haven't already talked about and haven't already seen. But nothing that makes really sense for this setting. But more than anything, it's really being coachable, just like the players, right? And being open to input, being open to some constructive criticism, being self-aware. I think it's a really good process for all of us. And as you guys know, we've talked about this in the past with the players and also the staff. Is we work really hard to hopefully improve without having to have a major setback to do it. Sometimes people need a setback and they feel like that was good for them the rest of the season. It's really hard to do that in college football.
I'm curious, you talked about scheduling a fair bit this year and years past recently. What goes into scheduling a non-conference out of your bye, and how does that benefit or disadvantage your team?
So say this again?
Scheduling with
a non-conference out of your bye
week.
Yeah, we don't do that. As you know, we set our schedule and then the conference comes out, so you don't know when your bye week's going to be. So that's really out of our control.
How can it benefit or disadvantage your team?
Well, considering we can't control it, I don't know how it does.
I'm talking about the fact that you're playing a non-conference game out of your bye this year.
It's good. At the end of the day, we got to find a way to beat them, whether it's conference or non-conference. I think it goes back to kind of what we were talking about before. In college football, depending on where your program is at and what your goals and objectives are, you technically you have to win them all now. So, again, those things are outside of our control. Whether we were playing a conference team this week or a non-conference team, we'd have to find a way to get a win, and then start over the next week.
You mentioned coachability in response to Audrey's question. You were talking about the coaches' coachability in that specifically?
Yeah, so I think what I said was just like the players, the coaches have to be coachable and open and self-aware and being able to take constructive criticism. That's really what self-scouting is. It's cutting yourself open and looking inside and finding out what the issues are and what makes you tick.
When you talk about a team that is able to improve without having that big setback, what kind of traits?
I'm jealous of your mustache.
It's been a lot of work.
It's impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When you talk about a team that is...
Go ahead, you start over because I have no idea what you're saying before.
When you're talking about a team that is able to improve without having that big setback, what are some of the traits that are in a team like that, and have you seen some of that, within this group that you have right now?
Yeah, I think it's maturity, right? It's maturity and experience, which sometimes is hard to get people to understand. That's where veteran coaches sharing stories, that's where veteran players, guys that have been here 5 and 6 years, sharing stories and experiences of opportunities that maybe they feel like they let slip by or coaches have in their careers, and how few times opportunity knocks, and you got to take advantage of it when it is. But I think more than anything, that comes with maturity and experience, not just in football but in life. And a lot of times in college football you lack that. So you're trying to hammer it home constantly, whether it's academics, whether it is decisions socially, and then whether it's, the game of football and understanding how precious these games are. I mean, you think about other sports, they may play 60, 70, 80 games in a season, and you can literally lose 5. And in college football, you're guaranteed so few games for a game and for a sport that we pour a ton into 365 days a year. So each opportunity is like gold. Each game, each quarter, each play is like gold. And you talk about it being a game of inches. It literally is.
James, you mentioned week 1 after Abdul had a couple of missed tackles everyone saw against West Virginia. He's a young player, let him be a sophomore. Have you seen him develop, and where have you seen him develop since that time? Yeah,
again, I think he had a ton of success as a true freshman. And this year we're asking more of him. He's obviously taken on more responsibility and more reps and more play time. And I think sometimes, whether it's Abdul or others, you're so excited to play after the whole offseason. I think sometimes you're trying to make plays happen, and the reality is, if you just do your job, the plays tend to come to you within the defense. And I've seen that over the last couple of weeks. I think early on as a defense as a whole, and specifically Abdul and others, I think we were trying to make plays rather than just doing our jobs.
James, when you got to know Tyler Warren 5 years ago as a quarterback at the high school level, was this kind of what you forecast as a staff, that he could be this kind of a presence, not only in the passing game, but as a run blocker? And what has he become here in year 4 for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's what you hope, right? The guys that we envision as tight ends here, we want them to be able to do both. And as you guys know, we've talked about that a lot, taking a lot of pride in developing complete tight ends. I think which is harder to do than it was in the past, based on how a lot of these guys were used in high school, either big wide receivers or, in his case, a quarterback. So, yes, but you never truly know until they get here. Toughness sometimes in high school, when you're just bigger and stronger than everybody, sometimes toughness is hard to tell. One of the most impressive things with him was watching him play basketball. Coach Rhodes, was familiar. We talked about him last week. So you don't never really know till they get here and how they embrace it. But he's been really good and has had a great career, and we think he's going to continue to have a really good career, not only the second half of this season, but then moving forward.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.